call this meeting Fayette County Commissioners order. We'll start with pledge allegiance to the flag. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You all have a copy of the minutes preceding meeting. Is there any additions or corrections?
I move to accept the minutes from the previous meeting as they stand.
Second that.
Been moved and second to accept the minutes of the previous meeting as presented. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Department head reports. Start with Jay Heffley.
Good morning.
Morning.
I've been off on vacation, so I'm just relaying what I was told they did while I've been off. So they've been doing some ditching and berming, patching holes. They brought the patch machines down from the dog shelter up there on the dog pound. That's where we store them at, and they're getting them ready. It'll probably be a couple, 3 weeks before they can get any oil for them, but we'll have them ready. They'll be ready to go. They are out there trying to sweep the intersections right now, trying to get all this excess sand off the intersections. They've got the backhoe out with the sweeper on it doing that. And plus they're hauling gravel in so they can put it on the road. We were getting our gravel from IMI and they run out, they have to put Derbyshire to get it. So we have to stockpile it at the garage and then take it from there out on the roads because it takes too long to go from Derbyshire out on the roads. That's pretty much what they've been doing.
Okay. Anything else? Any questions of Jay? Thank you, Jay.
Thank you.
Bill Gray.
Morning.
Morning.
Just have one thing. I got some quotes into your box yesterday. I'm sorry it was so short notice, but I couldn't get them back. I've got the Lochinvar boiler at the jail. This is our backup water heater boiler. It's been down for a while, and I just now got bids back in to get it fixed. It's got a blower assembly out of it. I got 3 bids. One was from Burgess. They're out of Richmond. $3,320. And one was from Choice out of Indianapolis, and they were $2,900. And Johnson Controls bid. They bid $2,796.
Pretty close together.
Yeah. It wasn't enough.
Any one of the three will,
I'm sorry.
any one of the three would be satisfactory.
I'd like to stay with Johnson.
Well,
They're low,
they are
but
low bid.
they take care of the equipment, so
Okay.
they're the ones that serve it.
What's your wishes?
I move to accept the lowest bid for Johnson Control for $27.96.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to accept the low bid from Johnson Controls. Any more discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Motion carried. Can I get you to sign this? Okay. And then I'll get you a copy, Debbie, when you guys. Thank you.
Okay.
And that's all I
Is
have.
that it, Bill?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. IT Director, is Ben here? No?
It's in this morning,
County Attorney, AJ?
All right, I have, I think 2 things today to talk about. And the last meeting, we put on the agenda an amendment. Well, actually, we didn't put it on the agenda as an amendment, but this is what I thought, and this is the salary levels of recalled employees. Because we've got employees, and I believe one was just recently hired upstairs in the clerk's office, and she was a recalled employee, I believe.
Yes.
Yes.
But we're getting into that where employees will be recalled, and there's nothing in the handbook or an ordinance that governs how much that employee will be given, what their starting salary will be, what I would like to call a restarting salary. So the commissioners asked me to look into this, see what we could do, and I talked to the auditor. It's looking like we're going to need to amend the personnel policies handbook, and we don't do that by resolution. I think the last time we talked about it, well, let's just propose a resolution here at the commissioners meeting. We actually use the Personnel Advisory Committee, which consists of one commissioner, one council member, Sheriff Wason, and the auditor. So, and they will craft the language as a committee, and then they can submit it to the commissioners and the council for approval. And especially for both of you, the council will need to approve it as well, as this is it will be an appropriation, generally speaking. And I've decided it can go in either section 2.17, section 3.5, or we can add an entirely new section, section 3.20 in the personnel policy handbook. So lively stuff here at the meeting this morning. The other thing was the Keener contract, and we've gone over that. We met with Keener. When was that? March 6th.
It was before our regular meeting. All
right. Meetings have been ongoing even before I've been in the county attorney position. Me, Barton, and Shirley met with Keener to try to get this agreement worked out. We think we've got the basis for it. I know the commissioners, at least 2 commissioners here, would like to see some language added to the contract, and we can put that on the record, and I can add it right here on the computer, and we can base, you can approve it as is with the acceptance of their approval at a later date if they so choose to approve.
Well, the language would read as that the set price for the property on the Keener property for the 7,500, that it would not be the assessment would not be a basis for them to get a reassessment on their
and
tax value.
Right. And so, Zane, you're proposing that because this agreement lowers what was a prior amount in the contract to a fair market value of $7,500, that wouldn't be used by Keener, or couldn't be used by Keener. They couldn't use this contract to
reassess.
Reassess their assessment
and get a lower reassessment value.
That's right. Okay. All right. So, and you would like to see that added to the contract?
Yes, I would.
Okay.
And I would like to see a reporting date per the contract requirements where they report their manpower levels, etc. I'd like to see that set at April 1st of each year.
All right, and I can actually add that in paragraph 5.
And they report that to the auditor or us?
I believe it's us.
Report that to us.
Okay. Said report being submitted to the Fayette County Commissioners by April 1st of the given year. Okay.
I might say for the public, the reason for this agreement is an inducement to get Keeners to keep their business in Connersville. They've guaranteed for the next 5 years that they'll maintain 100 employees in the county of Connersville. That's a pretty big deal right now. It's sort of the same thing we did with Stance, except Stance we gave them money, and this is we're giving ground that they already have leased, and the lease is not up until 2058, so we can't do anything with the ground anyway. J.D. Miller's building up there was handled in about the same way. That ground didn't happen to belong to the county, but it was done on the same basis. So you want to go ahead and take care of this agreement now?
I'll make a motion to accept the agreement presented to us here with the additional amendments as discussed.
And this is pretty simple here. It's going to be paragraph 10, that the $7,500 value assigned to the property by the commissioners in this contract shall not be used by Keener in adjusting their assessed value. It's pretty plain and basic right there.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Is there any discussion by anybody? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. That takes care of this. So go back to your first item. We need to assign this callback policy to that
No.
committee.
Oh,
No, what I would say actually, at our previous meeting, on public record, we stated that we would have an ordinance proposed today. And I'm saying that at our previous meeting, we didn't have that option of proposing an ordinance today. It has to go through. Any amendment to the Personnel Policy Handbook has to start with the Personnel Advisory Committee.
That's what I'm
So,
saying, that we need to send that to that advisory committee for them to,
I don't believe so. You guys don't really have to.
let's do.
You can though, yeah,
Let's do it.
absolutely, yeah.
Then we'll get everybody's opinion on it.
Okay.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Bart, I'd like to take a second though and clarify something. The Personnel Advisory Committee, they can meet essentially whenever they want to, according to the handbook. And that's because they need to meet simply as needed.
Right.
So on this issue specifically, you've just called them to go to meet on that. That's great. There's another issue regarding the insurance benefits, and this was raised last week.
For the people we call back.
Right,
Yes.
right. And that's something, again, that can be addressed by the Personnel Advisory
Right.
Committee. Yeah.
that's on the Medicare supplement he's talking about.
Yeah, the Humana Medicare supplement, that too. But again, it doesn't need to originate here, if you guys would like. If the Personnel Advisory Committee, if they have a meeting and they're allowed to meet whenever they really want to, they can show up at the Commissioners' meeting and then propose their findings there, okay?
Sounds the best way.
So you're saying the Humana issue that we're talking about needs to go to them?
I think so too, yeah.
And if it does, then I would hope that they would meet for long. We need to get that issue resolved, because it is a chance for the county to save a considerable amount of money
Right.
on our insurance. Okay.
All right, that's all I got right now.
Council Representative Shirley, you got anything?
Back there.
Richard? Okay. EDG Representative, he's not here. Mail, we have any mail, Debbie?
Yeah.
No mail. Keener Properties gone. New business cemetery mowing contract bid. Is there anybody here from the cemetery that wishes to speak to this before we do something? It's, last year we contracted, I believe it was 18 cemeteries, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That mostly the cemeteries next to the road. It's not going to be long, excuse me, until time to mow grass. I would propose that we ask for bids by our next meeting on mowing those cemeteries, the 18 that we had last year, and possibly ask them to put in a price for additional. I know the cemetery commission was thinking maybe we should add 3 or 4 more. Ask them to put in an order for that, and also if they want to, an alternate bid to do the, we have several cemeteries that's out in people's private property that you can just get to in the spring and the fall when between the crops. And I would propose we make this a 3-year contract so we don't have to do this each and every year. Yes, sir.
I was just going to add to that. Our vice president was supposed to be here today. I just came to support.
Okay.
But Brenningham Cemetery in northern Posey County, their township, was one of the cemeteries we wanted to add to the mowing contract. There's a dirt road that goes from the farmer's barn back to the cemetery. I talked to the farmer.
You mean it's a private lane or?
Yeah, it's private. And I talked to the farmer Saturday, and he said he was going to put gravel down because there's a couple of places that kind of muddy, and he's going to put gravel there. And I told him that there's a possibility we'd have a contractor coming in mowing that cemetery. And he had no problem. The only thing he said that he gave us his telephone number, and he would like for the contractor to call him prior to going out, which this contractor has no problem with that. The other cemetery was Shawnee Bluff. It's Shawnee Bluff. It sets off the road about 50 foot. It has a dirt road going to it from the 800 north. I've been trying to find out if that little dirt road goes to the cemetery, or if it's on the
Private
property. I haven't been able to find that out. I'm going to contact the owner of the land around it and see if they have if it's okay with them if we start maintaining that road. I'd like
Yes. We start maintaining the road?
Well, the cemetery commission. I'm going to see if we can get some gravel to put in there. It's rutted pretty bad. That way the contractor can pull his truck in there to mow the cemetery.
Right. I see what you're saying. It's somebody pulling in there. It's a dirt road.
Yeah.
Some ruts might be made,
Well,
or so
the
on and
farmer
so
uses
forth.
it too to go in that field to get to his field.
And I would just say, I would say don't commit us to anything as far as, but just talk to whoever owns the land and then
Right.
see what we can do about, that, and then we can just check back in on a later date. But that's
Because I was out there last Friday cutting trees, trying to get it ready to be mowed.
right. Okay. Sounds good.
So you have two more that you want to add to it, is that?
That I know of in my area.
Well, we need a list of what you might want done, because these people's gonna have to go out there and look at those,
Look at
bid
it.
on them between now and our next meeting.
Okay.
So they need a list of what we're asking
Right.
for.
And we need to get everybody that telephone number, so
Yeah.
Right.
that's the only thing the
So
farmer
what
wants.
I think we should do is ask for the bid on the ones we done last year, and then put an alternate bid in on what you might come up with, which we could.
I don't know about the other areas, if there's cemeteries
I
we
mean,
want to add.
we can't just keep adding these on as we go along. We have to know now what we're gonna do.
Right. But
And-
Brittingham and Shawnee Bluff are pretty big cemeteries too, so,
Okay.
for one person just to go out there with a weed eater to try to mow.
And then, your cemetery commission was counting on volunteer work to do the other,
Smaller
the
cemeteries,
smaller cemeteries.
right? Like Old Friends, or not Old Friends, but Old Pike. They're just like 6 grave cemeteries, or
But there's several of them, is that
right.
right?
Williams is we found out working with Mr. Gobin that it's a lot bigger cemetery than what we originally thought. It's a half mile away from the road though.
While we're talking about the volunteers going out, I talked to Brad Wilson, who carries our insurance yesterday. We are covered for people getting hurt who are volunteers, only if the insurance company has a list of who those are
Okay.
before they go.
Okay.
So if you have anybody that's going to be volunteering, we need to have that list
Right.
to give to the insurance company before we start in.
Yeah, we made up a volunteer list thing with contact numbers for the volunteers if they get hurt, so we have somebody to contact if they get hurt.
I would just say that everybody that's on the volunteer list, give it to the insurance company, and if you have a couple of people that say they're gonna volunteer and don't show up, at least they're on the list.
Right.
You know?
If they're not on the list, they're not covered, is what I'm trying to tell you.
Okay. Sounds good.
So we need a motion, if that's what you want to do, to advertise for bids for the cemeteries that we had, plus give them the option of giving an alternate bid for these 2 or 3, whatever other cemeteries they come up with that they might want to know.
So moved.
Second.
Any more discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Those bids will be due before our next meeting in April.
We'll get that.
Mr. President,
We're
Yes.
activating
The judge has a hearing. Could we move her forward?
Sure can. So is that all you have, sir?
We had a cover list or a cover sheet that we wanted adopted, and Lenny was supposed to bring a copy of that to show you to see if we could get it approved.
But he doesn't, he's not here.
He's not here.
Okay, okay.
And I didn't bring my copy.
Well, we can look at it the next meeting then.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Judge?
Thank you. Thank you for accommodating the full schedule. I thought I was on the agenda for today. I just have two quick items for you. The first one is very simple. If you've been in the court chambers, it has an old fireplace mantle that's been there forever, I guess, and it's some kind of a metal, and it's been painted over with brown paint to look like wood. And I have found someone, not a local person, I've been looking since I took office over 2 years ago for a local person. Haven't found one, but I have found somebody who can do painting to make things look like marble when they aren't marble.
Right.
And I am quite willing to pay for that myself. I would like to, since you're in charge of the courthouse, have your permission to pay to have the fireplace painted to look like black marble with green and gold veining in it. And I have the person lined up to do it. She just has to come and look at it. If any of you want to see the fireplace in the court chambers, you're welcome to come up and look at it.
I've seen it.
Okay.
If you're willing to have it done on your own, I see no problem with it. Just help the looks of the
It will make it look
courthouse.
really nice, I think. Okay.
I'll move. You need a motion?
I think we can just do that by consensus.
Second.
Okay, well, I'll let you know when it's done, and then you can look at it. The second matter is that it's time to renew our juvenile detention contracts, and I know that, Barton, you were here when we worked with that before, but for Frank and Zane, on a yearly basis, the court has to place juveniles at detention facilities. And in the past, those contracts weren't signed by the commissioners, although they are supposed to be. For the contracts to be binding and legal, they need to be. So I now come in front of you with these contracts. And I've been able to kind of pare the contracts down to the bare bones. It used to be that we had signed up for and were paying for way more days than we used. And so I'm trying to get it almost down to a science to where I can predict with some certainty how many days we're going to use and how much money to set aside, and we're getting there. Our contract goes from January to January. However, they let us now, due to my talking to them, roll over our unused days from the contract, which we weren't doing before. In 2012, we saved $72,270 by using up rolling over unused days. But anyway, we're now into the middle of March, and we're down to about 4 days left that we've rolled over from 2012, so it's now time to do something as far as a contract. We had a contract with Cedar Bridge, which you may have known as the Muncie Reception and Diagnostic Center, or the Muncie Youth Center, but it's called Cedar Bridge now. That's the name of the company or the entity that runs it. And I would like to renew a contract with them. If we sign a contract, it's $105 a day. If we do not sign a contract and just pay quarterly for the number of days used in a quarter, it's $129 a day. They told me if we should happen to, before we get a contract signed, spill over from these 4 or 5 unused days we have left, they would still honor us for a very short time at $105. We've been paying for 500 days a year. That was as close as I could get it down to predicting what we would need. And I have to tell you in fairness, it's impossible to predict exactly how many days we're going to need, because it's impossible for me to predict when juveniles are going to go out and commit acts that would require their detention. So that's as close as I can get it.
But with the rule provision, we're just paying for what we actually use anyway.
Exactly. But when I ran a business, I didn't want to pay ahead for things if I didn't have to, and you're billed quarterly. So I thought the smartest thing to do would be to at least shave it down to as close as we could estimate, so that we weren't paying every quarter ahead of time for days that we were
Right.
going to roll over into the next year. But yes, you're absolutely right. We're going to get to use those days no matter what. But let's not pay for them ahead of time if we don't have to.
Right.
And so that's fine, and I'm hoping that you will allow us to renew that contract. And as I said, it was for 500 days a year, and that means we have 2 beds reserved every day of the year. But I have one little monkey wrench I want to throw into that. Warrenly Youth and Family Treatment Center, which is on the south side of Richmond, has just opened a detention facility as well. Warrenly is an organization, it started out as an orphan's home back in the 1800s, and now they provide all kind of really good services for youth. They have a sexual offender pod. They come down to this community and actually provide substance abuse treatment to juveniles and families. It's a very, very good facility. Long story short, they now also would like for Fayette County to place juveniles in their facility. And I met with them a month or so ago with my chief probation officer, and we discussed the costs. They're of course one county closer. And the law provides that if I can, I'm supposed to place a juvenile in their county of residence if there's a facility. Well, there isn't, so that's not possible, but I'm supposed to place them at least as close to their home county as I can. Well, Wayne County is one, it's closer than Delaware County. Their cost is $130 a day. There's no set number of days. It could be 1 day, it could be 50 days. It would be whatever the court decided and whether or not you okay it. What I would hope that we could do is, there are some juveniles who need to be in a detention type facility such as Cedar Bridge, where they've committed a lot of delinquent acts and they just need to be sent to a place with very, very strict rules. There are some juveniles who are troubled and need mental health services and things of that nature, maybe, like I said, sexual offender services and things like that, and they would end up at Warrenly eventually anyway receiving those services. And for just the sake of having continuity of services to those troubled juveniles, I would like to be able to use on a limited basis Warrenly services, because I think it's more appropriate for some juveniles. And I would just hope that you would say, Judge, we'll sign this contract with Warrenly too. It doesn't provide for any set number of days, and you would leave it to my discretion, understanding that there's a difference in the cost between 105 at Cedar Bridge and 130 at Warrenly, and I would only use Warrenly for those minority of cases where I think that the facts and circumstances call for it.
You think that'd be a low percentage of the people?
Yes, I think it would be a very low percentage, but for their children, their juveniles, adolescents, for the children who need it, it would make a big difference. Some children, frankly, I don't want to get into the facts and circumstances too much, but sometimes children come into the court and they present a suicide risk, for instance. And those are the type of young people that I don't think need to be in a military detention type setting. They need to be in a setting, which would be Muncie more. I think they need to be at Warrenly. So I'm going to ask you, it's a bit unusual to sign both contracts. I talked to Cedar Bridge and I said, what if we don't sign up for the regular 500 days like we have been? Can we still get the $105 a day? I said, what if I decide that we want to sign up for maybe 400 days with Cedar Bridge and 100 with Warrenly, or 450 with you and 50 with Warrenly? And they said we could still have the $105 a day price.
Well, to me, it would make sense if the children get better care at Warrenly.
I appreciate that.
I have a question, because I don't know how the process really works. In the event that a child is put in a detention center,
yes,
part of the cost that the county has to pay for that, does parents have to, or at some point as a restitution, because I just don't know if that's even, I mean,
okay, let me explain to you how that works.
Okay.
The detention is paid for by the county only at the detention phase, meaning pre-disposition, pre-having the fact-finding hearing or the finding that the child is a delinquent child. After that, services are paid for by the state.
Okay.
Okay,
All right.
so we're just talking for a short period of time pre us deciding whether or not this child is a delinquent child and what services they need. With regard to the parents, we impose probation users fees and court costs and things like that. And many times we will have difficulty even collecting that because sometimes only one parent's alive.
Right.
Sometimes both parents are deceased and they're with an aunt. Sometimes the parents are indigent.
Okay.
And so it would be very difficult to recover those costs from the parents in 97% of the cases that come through the court.
Okay.
So what I'm asking you is if you'll sign both of these contracts, and I made copies for you to look at, and let me have just a little bit of leeway if I want to place children at Wernley if I think that's appropriate. I have the original contract, and I'm sorry I didn't make a bunch of copies. I made it. Here's the original.
You need this answer today.
I don't need an answer today. We have a little bit of leeway. Like I said, we have maybe 5 days left to roll over, but you know, depending on what happens with the juveniles, we need it pretty soon. And I can give you the Cedar Bridge contract to look at as well. It's the same contract that has been signed for years, except that we get to roll over our days. And this contract provides for 500 days, but if you allow me to place children at Wernley as well, I'm going to mark out 500 and put more like 450, just because I'm thinking I might use as many as 50 days of Wernley. That I probably wouldn't use more than that. So if you want to think about it, chew on it till the next meeting, that's okay too.
But AJ's, if AJ needs time to look at the contracts before we make our decision.
And AJ, that if you'd like, I can give you the contracts from past years, but that's basically just a mirror image of the contracts they've signed before. And if you want to call me, if you have any questions after you look at it, I'm available. I'll make myself available for that.
So if we put it on the agenda for the first meeting in April, that would be sufficient?
Yes, that would be fine.
Okay.
Judge, I'm assuming that if you prefer to send someone to Wernley, you're anticipating using Wernley's facilities for treatment or something because of
Exactly.
special, that's one of the reasons why you're anticipating, if you send them there, you're anticipating using Wernley's services.
Exactly. It's that continuity of care. You're not transporting a juvenile up to a more like a military style facility and then taking them over for treatment. They would stay on the same campus and have that continuity of care. And as I said, that would be more for juveniles who have mental health issues or I feel are a suicide risk, something like that.
So the difference between 105 and 130 really isn't apples to apples, it's just two different.
They're both detention facilities, but I just don't
There's a
think
reason.
Muncie fits with all the kids.
Well, that's what I'm saying,
Yes.
there is a justification for the extra.
Yes, and all I can say is I just have to try to use my best judgment on a case-by-case basis and decide where to place them.
For those, if I may, for those who don't understand what she's talking about, the facility in Muncie is just like your first day at boot camp. If a juvenile goes there, they're in their face as soon as, well, before they get out of the car. There's a line down the hallway they can't they can't cross. They cross that line, it's considered a physical assault on the officers there. It's a type of facility for young people to get a wake-up call, whereas those that would go for Wernley may have some mental problems and/or emotional problems that need a TLC. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, I think that sums it up pretty well. And Muncie works very well for short term for some juveniles to straighten them up, but I don't think it's appropriate for some. So I appreciate and I apologize for cutting ahead of everybody. I appreciate your considering that, and I guess I'll see you at the next meeting.
We'll bring it up in April.
Okay.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No, we're not. Keep it. No. Yeah, we are. Billy Wason.
Not let nobody else in front.
I hope we didn't keep you waiting, Sheriff.
Hey, Judge.
Huh?
None that said that actually left.
I noticed that.
You bet. Did the jail report last week or last month in the last meeting, and we talked about that one of the projects was the showers and the metal that needs to be repaired in there. Barton called and asked me to get a couple of quotes. Maybe we could talk about the capital project, but so I went ahead and got that done. There's a couple of them, 2 of them actually. The first one is from Lake Innovative Group. The next one is from Lean Welding. The reason it's on white paper, just typed as it is, he sent me his quote via text. It was a little tough to print off the text and bring it, so I put it on paper for him. They're going to replace all the metal that's in each showers, of all 8 of the showers, and replace them with stainless steel. And they're going to take out and try to get off some of the stuff that's really rusted bad, but they're going to go over top of everything else. It'll be riveted on with stainless steel rivets. So the first price there you can see is from Lakes is $5,968.90. That is for all 8 showers to be repaired, 4 small ones and 4 large ones. The next bid on the back is $18,600. That was from Lean Welding. So both those are local companies. I didn't want to go outside of Connersville if we can help it. So I don't know what else. I mean, obviously, Lake's bid is, 3/4 or a quarter of what the other is, or a third. So it's up to you guys to decide how you want to proceed from here, and where we got the money, and I don't know, sort of in your ballpark now.
Well, we talked about putting this in the capital plan for this amount of money. I think we can take that out of the jail. We've got it in there, and this, if we repair these showers, that pretty much brings our jail up to.
Yeah, I think the only thing that will leave is the padded cell, and I was in there last night, we're doing an inmate, so it still is, it's working, but it's going to need some attention before long. Again, we're sort of waiting to see. The showers are more important than the padded cell at this point for us. So I thought the bid was, Lake's bid was fantastic. I even called him to make sure that there wasn't a misprint of numbers or something.
So if Lakes does the job, chances are they can't fix it to where it'll never happen again as far as it rusting out, because I went in there and you showed me them and they're in bad shape. They are.
Well, they said the stainless will not rust.
Okay.
So short of the framework that's up there, the little L channel stuff that's up that the other's attached to, short of that, if that doesn't come loose or rust off, I don't see why it won't last through our.
It should be better than what we had when it was new.
Yeah, that's the original. We go back, we made a lot of repairs to that jail, and I haven't heard much complaining from the citizenry, or so to speak, but you got to understand that's 20 years old plus, and it's never closed, and it's never shut down. It's never running at, we don't turn the heat down on the weekends. It's always running 24 hours a day, and has not been shut down for over 20 years straight. So that's a long time for stuff to last, and the original plan and the original stuff that was bought, it's held up, fantastic, I think. And we've just decided to try to start fixing everything here in the last, 10 years or so, or 8 years, and here we are. So the showers, they need to be repaired, obviously, from the report. It's probably one of the last big things on the list. I thought it was going to be way bigger than this price that we got, but it is what it is, and I think it's a good deal to move forward. And then obviously, as soon as we fix that's something, that a freezer, or how that works. As soon as you get it to where you think you're good. So I don't know what else to do other than fix them as they come and move forward. So
I think this is a great price. I think we need to take the opportunity to go ahead and fix them and get it back in good shape.
Motion?
Need a motion to approve if that's what you want to do.
I'll make a motion that we accept the bid from Lake Innovative Group for $5,968.90 to be taken out of jail fuel fund.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to accept Blake's proposal. Take the money out of Cume Jail. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? There you go.
All right, I'll call him and we'll get it set up and get started.
Was that worth your wait, Sheriff?
It was worth the, well, not, I mean, sort of a no-brainer decision, but yeah, it was worth the wait. Keep the judge happy.
Well, if you,
Have a good day.
okay. Crystal Logan wants to talk about the jail, or the railroad crossing.
My brother, Travis Geis, was involved in a train truck accident on February 28th, 2013. Due to his injuries from the accident, he passed away. The only warnings at the tracks are a railroad sign and a stop sign on both sides. A stop sign isn't going to warn you a train is coming when there are obstructions in the way. Because of these obstructions, you have to get right up on the tracks to see. If there would have been lights and crossing arms, we know this accident would have never happened. On behalf of my family and everyone else who's supporting us on this, we want to have lights and crossing arms put up where this accident occurred. We're not wanting this done because of my brother's death, but for the next person who crosses the tracks. Our family just wants something done so another life doesn't have to be lost. And I have another letter to read. To whom it may concern. On February 28th, 2013, at railroad crossing 15413-8C, mile post 006270, County Road 450 East, a young man's life was tragically taken. I do not know if it was a car operator error, but what I do know is if there was some other form of warning system letting him know the closeness of the approaching train, then a life would have been saved. According to the U.S. DOT crossing inventory information as of 3/17/13, the average daily travel across this railroad is 770, 8% of which are trucks. It also states there are no markings, lights, no advanced warnings, etc. to call attention to the 2 trains per day that travel the tracks. The inventory information also states that as of 2/20/13, there were new crossbuck assemblies with stop signs. Even though the crossbuck assembly is not present as of 3/17/13, this still would not call the attention needed to warn the traveler that a train was close by. Indiana Code Section 8-6-7, 6-1. Distance of unobstructed view states, or in a rule adopted by the Indiana Department of Transportation, each railroad in the state of Indiana shall maintain each public crossing under its control in such a manner that the operator of any licensed motor vehicle has an unobstructed view for 1,500 feet in both directions along the railroad right-of-way, subject only to terrain elevations or depressions, track curvature, or permanent improvements. There is not an obstructed view in both directions of 1,500 feet when driving from Springsville toward State Road 44, which is traveling south on 450 East. The code also states, B, a public crossing equipped with a train-activated crossing gate is exempt from the requirements of subsection A if the railroad maintains an unobstructed view for at least 250 feet in both directions along the railroad right-of-way. There is no crossing gate at this railroad crossing. From my research, I cannot find that this railroad crossing is up to Indiana code. I believe this code violation is a major contributing factor to the loss of life. I ask that something to be done before another life is lost. I'm confident there are more crossings in rural America that are following suit, and I ask these crossings also be brought up to code to prevent future fatalities. People may say it is not worth the money to provide signals required due to the fact of where it is located or the low incident of travel. But my reply is this. A wonderful man has lost his life, a man who worked hard to better himself, who had a bright future ahead of him. He has nieces and nephews who will never again know his wonderful smile and soft, loving nature. He will never have children, buy a house, or get married. And if the only excuse someone can find is the cost is too high for the area, I ask you to reconsider and take into account our cost. The cost we have to wake up and deal with daily because someone found some excuse not to make sure and rural Indiana crossing was as safe as well marked as it should have been. Thank you, Heidi Kuntz. And I also have some more information
Ma'am,
about the tracks.
excuse me, could you give me that code again, please?
Indiana Code, Section 8-6-7, and there's a dot 6-1.
Thank you.
And you guys can have copies of this if you want. And I have the 3 accident reports here, plus I have petitions, over 300 signatures of petitions.
Before you go any further, I want to, for the commissioners, I'm sorry for your loss. And I'm sorry that you have to be here under these circumstances. And I really want to take a look at this. So.
I appreciate that. If there were crossing arms or lights there, he'd still be here and I wouldn't be standing here today.
Right.
And I called CSX and they said that you have to understand it costs hundreds of thousands of dollars to put these up. Well, you know, CSX. And I told the lady, I was like, you know, I don't care about how much something costs like that. I mean, it's safety. It's a safety. I mean, I have pictures here that show that there's unobstructed views. I mean, you cannot see. And
Do you have the pictures?
Do you have, how many copies do you have, ma'am?
You can have these.
Of the petitions, is that right?
Yes. I don't have copies because I wanted to let you see the originals, but I would like to have the originals
If
back.
you'll let me have them, I'll go get some copies
Okay.
made, please.
Share.
Just give them to her, she'll take care of it. Thank you, Sharon.
They're all here. Our question is, who's in charge? I mean, because I got a letter yesterday from CSX and they said that the county highway is in charge of putting that up. But I called the county highway and they said they're not in charge of putting that up. So we're getting the runaround. We'd like to know who's in charge.
I'm in charge of doing
No.
what? I'm
Who's in
sorry.
charge of putting the lights and crossing arms up?
Lights and crossing arms. She said she called the highway and they said the railroad, and the railroad says it's the county highway.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the question I have. I mean, I don't know what power, who does have the power to do anything?
It's the railroad's responsibility to put the lights and crossing, the drop arms up. We're taking care of the signs. We're upgrading all the signs right now through a state grant. And Danny's gonna call, he's got a number of the guy he's been in contact with on the signs to see why they told her that it was our responsibility. Because it's her responsibility to put them up. They're the ones that put it up there on the Sykes Road, coming out, going south, going north into Harrisburg. They put the crossing arms up there.
AJ, could you get a hold of them and stress that we want something done, and it's, you know, putting the blame on somebody doesn't help the situation any.
Russell Seidel, there's crossing arms and lights up at the Springersville Road, and someone said that Russell Seidel would know who's in charge of putting them up.
Well, Russ Seidel was the commissioner, but I mean, AJ here will determine what we can do and what we can't do, and if it is the railroad, get a hold of them and urge them to do their job.
Okay,
We'll do what we can.
thank you.
And at some point, you're more than welcome to ask and find out how it's going along.
Who do we need to ask?
I'll give you my card here in a little bit, and you can, if the other, AJ or whatever, I mean,
But we'll ask the attorney to look into it and see whose responsibility it is, and if it's the other people's, to urge them to get their job done, and then.
Because we've also contacted, well, we emailed Leonard Urban, Luke Messer, Joe Donnelly, Dan
Yes.
Coates, and Mike Pence. We've emailed on them,
Yeah.
trying to get help to do this.
Right.
Okay.
We'll do what we
We
can,
appreciate it.
but, you know. Yeah,
Thank you.
just give me a ring or Debbie a ring or anybody will tell you how we're coming home. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate you coming in.
Thank
Sorry
you.
for your loss. Any other items? I don't see any.
Mr. Ross, can I ask you?
Yes.
My name's Danny Monster. I live on the Lionsville Road. I've lived out there for 34 years. Most of you know stop signs, they're only good for the people that stop. I sit out there on different days on Sunday afternoon, and probably 50–60% of the cars hardly slow down for that intersection. You can put all kinds of signs up there, and they're going to run right through them. I think something really needs to be done. I don't think there's another intersection across the river that has as much traffic on it as that one does right there in our county. And like she said, there's one person is too much to lose.
Right.
And I think something needs to be done. And I appreciate it getting done.
Thank you.
And also, one more thing, I also called the bus transportation this morning, and she said a school bus crosses those tracks 10 times a day.
I think that's
Oh,
right.
I'm sure.
Ma'am?
Yeah, I talked to her this morning as well.
I'm Travis's mom, but I used to drive school bus, and I traveled those across them tracks 13 times a day between 325 and Springersville Road, and the lights weren't on those Springersville Road when I drove, and they're all very bad. But the one at 450 East this road traveled a lot.
Sir?
And the amount of train traffic has really increased in the last few years. The speed of the trains has picked up. Amtrak runs at night. You know, who would want to be coming up on that crossing in pitch black with an Amtrak barreling down 50, 60 miles an hour? Because I know when Amtrak comes through and I'm in bed, you are lucky if you can get out of bed and get to the window before it's gone. You will not see it. That's how fast it's going.
That's been mentioned to me about to the fact that I don't know what our legal recourse is to where the railroad will speed up their trains, and some cities and counties have fought issues like that for the railroad to slow them down. And that's something that may be able to look into as far as, you know, as a collected effort. One person is too many, but
I would sure like to be notified if a train is barreling down on me. Because I live 80 feet from the tracks, and I make it a point to stop. But there's times, just like pulling on a highway, that I stop, and I look, and boom, there's a train right there. And if I hadn't stopped, I'd been gone. But there's no warning that you have to stop. It's just the amount of exposure that we have to the trains.
These pictures that were handed to us, they show the tracks as they are now in winter time. In spring and summer, when the leaves and weeds and thorns and everything else are up, is it worse for those of you that live out there? Is it worse as far as the view?
It's some worse. I know they had a program recently to really cut back some of the trees, but the direction that he was going, there's a building and the train happens to be coming from that. You have to be within 50 feet of the tracks to see that.
To see the train.
And so it's just, you don't even know it.
Right.
So that's why I think a forewarning.
Right. Does anybody else got anything?
The commissioners need to go out and drive south on that road to see what he's talking about. You'd see the seriousness of this, because you're on that railroad before you see the train. So
that is,
you know, you're correct. You know, and we will do whatever we can.
And I will say, for living out there, the engineers aren't always the same about when they hit their whistle when they come through there.
That's what
Some of them will hit that whistle and ride it all the way through. Others will just get a short beep, and if you're not there to hear that beep, it's too late.
Right.
and that's
There's a double track up there where they leave cars or short trains can get onto. They stop and back up, and they're back and forth across that intersection. you know, it's just a dangerous track.
Right.
That's County
Yeah.
450 East, correct?
Right. Going from 44 to Springersville.
All right,
Right.
I'll go today.
I'll be there sometime this week.
Anybody else?
If you're home, I'll stop and talk to you.
Any other patients' concerns? If none, we need approval of the claims and the payroll.
I move to accept the payroll and claims as presented to us.
Second?
Been moved and second to approve the claims and the payroll as presented. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carried. Nothing further, I would entertain a motion for adjournment.
Second. So move, sorry. Second.
Been moved and seconded to adjourn the meeting. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Meeting adjourned. Folks, thanks for coming in.